Hi, this is Greg Hildebrandt. I've been a professional artist for 62 years. I've done a lot of artwork in that time, and I'm still just trying to get it right.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Hello, Gene and Greg. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Keith?
We're
I am
back.
doing well. Well, we're already starting off with Adrian Wagner saying, "We want Gene. We want Gene."
Here she is.
Hey, Adrian, how are you?
I'm going to be the dummy in the corner. I'm going to put this on to see if I can get enlightened about contracts and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? The reflection. This keeps out all alien influence. I mean, and I think it's better crooked, though, don't you? Like tilted, it gives it a jaunty sort of.
Yeah, you look like the Tin Man from the
Because
Wizard.
That's
my
exactly what I
rehearse
was
to Broadway. Remember me to Harold Square. Oh, is that a copyright infringement? Bada boom.
Ooh.
Your guy's show.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Pete. Hi, everyone. If there's anybody there aside from Adrian, but hi, Adrian.
So yes, good to see both of you. And so Gene, you and I were talking about this, and we were talking about how last week, we kind of left off the conversation, but we had not really discussed uh, what people could or should do, what their options are if they find that their work is being, infringed upon. Now, a lot of young artists, a lot of old artists probably can't afford to just run right out and hire a lawyer. So I'm going to ask you, Gene,
I hear a lawyer.
is it mandatory to hire a lawyer if someone is infringing your art? And what should you do?
That's like the worst possible thing you could ever do. I can't even imagine hiring a lawyer. What's the point?
Oh my God. No, don't
point?
start that way.
Okay, no, don't do that. Okay, yeah, I think that the profession of law is it's a good profession. It was actually a profession I was thinking about going into many years ago when I was in college, but for the most part, my experience is most attorneys don't understand copyright. Even the ones who say that they're copyright attorneys don't understand really copyright, and they charge way too much and do way too little for what you're paying for. And so, what you don't want to do is run to a lawyer because you feel that you have no power and you're ineffective, and there's nothing nothing else you can do in the world. It, a lot of times I find that I would actually say probably 70% of the time, when someone infringes a copyright, Greg's or anybody else's that I know, they actually honestly don't understand copyright law and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that what they're doing is not legal. Okay. And so I would say 70% of the time you can nicely approach the person online, approach the website or who's ever doing it or what they're using it for, and say, wow, that's my art. And can I ask you where you got the license to use that because I didn't give it to you? Now, if they're a jerk, they're going to say F you, and that's going to be the end of that conversation. And then you got to go in one direction. A lot of times, that's not going to happen. They're going to go, oh my God, I got this on this free website, or, so I got this on this CD that said vintage art. And you go, yeah, it's vintage. I did it 3 months ago, and see, my first response is always to contact the person first, the website next, and then if they really, really, really refuse, you just have to get in touch with the company that hosts the website, and they will ask you to fill out a copyright infringement form, and then they will shut down your art being infringed. As long as you can prove it's yours, they'll shut it down. You don't have to try and shut it down after that. They'll just go, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Hildebrandt, and they go boing and gone. So you have remedies.
Now, in that case, what do you have to do to prove that the work is yours and not the person who has it posted and is infringing?
Okay, well, this is all part and parcel to what I was talking about in the end of our last conversation about building your own website. And I don't care if it's nothing more than a static website that, you click on images, each one has a description, the size, a medium, what it was painted on, or inks or pencil or whatever. But you put it online, and in your description put the date you created it and what you created it for. And if it was just a gallery piece, it's a personal piece, you put in the description, it's a gallery piece, it's a personal piece, it's 11 by 17 inches, it's ink and pencil on paper, or it's acrylic on canvas, or it's oil on board, or whatever it is. But you're documenting right there, okay? And then your website becomes your Bible of what you've done, and you just point them in that direction. You just send the URL link. Here's my website. Here's that piece. Oh yeah.
That's my ringtone. And strangely, just quickly, can I stick something in because of that ringtone?
I'm sorry. This is unknown. We're going to answer.
We were at
unknown.
New York. We were at New York Comic Con several years ago, whenever the hell it was, and this kid comes up, young guy, with a great Popeye T-shirt, the old Max Fleischer Popeye.
Yep.
I said, "Whoa, Popeye!" As soon as I said that, my phone rang in my pocket with that theme. The kid freaks out, and he thinks I did it intentionally, and I couldn't explain. No, it was
See, on Greg's phone in 3 days, we have 55 unidentified numbers.
UF.
Yes. Okay.
And
Anyhow, I'm sorry.
UFN.
So that's what you do, and then one of the things, if it's just a person that's infringing you, somebody that saw your art, they liked it, they copy it, they pull the JPEG, off the internet, and they're trying to make 8x10 prints and sell them on eBay for $5. Okay, you can join the Vero program of eBay, which is the infringement end, copyright infringement end of eBay. If you're a seller, and they're very good. They have their own form. A lot of websites have their own form that they want you to fill out for infringement. They're really fabulous because if you actually join as a member, and it doesn't cost you anything, you just join, okay? And by joining, you're giving them your website, you're giving them your credentials, you're giving them your history, whatever, as an artist, and then you just point back to there, and they go, "Oh, I get it. I shut down people all the time on eBay. It's it's like one of the worst possible places in the world to." Hello.
Somebody's knocking at
Somebody's here. Hello.
Franco's here to paint, do some painting. Like he uses a bigger brush than I do, and he works on bigger surfaces. I use a smaller brush and work on smaller surfaces.
Does he paint as accurately as you?
He paints very accurately. When he's doing a board, he puts a board in, it slides it in to make sure that it doesn't get on the other side, like on a deck. He's very good.
Yeah. So,
and not only that, he's like a soccer player. So bounces back and forth.
European guy, right? He's a European guy.
No, that's his buddy and boss. That's Luigi Trentacosta.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's been lately, for the last few years, I've had these Sicilian guys that are fantastic. They're great. Their personality, I love them, but in a great, precise, and great craftsman. And lunchtime comes, man. That's it. At the table with the red wine, just not like plastered drunk, just enough to kind of like and great
off a little bit.
Great conversations, terrific conversations. Anyway,
our conversation is taking a left-hand turn real quick there.
Well, I mean that's that. Here we are. Got to roll with the punches, or what the hell is that cliche?
So, we were laughing earlier when I was talking to you about the Instagram and the comments about your work on Instagram, and maybe Jean won't let us talk about it because she's coming back.
She's coming back.
Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. Okay.
Jean is the monitor. She is the.
We're going to talk about the evils of Hildebrandt art.
Gene has a big ruler back there, like the kind of the nuns used to beat me over the knuckles with. You know what I'm
How
saying?
did you get to
Wham, wham,
this?
wham.
How did you get to this?
Well, we
I
were
was only
talking
gone.
about
I was only gone 3 minutes. How
Shit
did you get to
happens.
this?
Well,
Shit
we were
happens.
talking about your contractors, and then I realized we're on an art podcast talking about contractors, and that our conversation just went. Shoom.
I hope so.
So
We
I
talked
was gonna
about
bring
paint.
it up
Okay.
to
So
to Instagram comments.
Yeah.
I wanted to get Greg's take on people's
so where do you want to
interpretations.
go? You want to go to Instagram or you want to go back to where you were? I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Well, now that you're back, we'll go back to where you were,
Okay.
and we'll leave everybody in suspense here about what these Instagram comments were.
There may be some
Uh,
more coming up. Or do you have
Sure
any?
they are,
What do
as
you
we're
have?
speaking.
Comments anyway.
As we're speaking, they're typing. Okay, where
okay,
were we?
so you were talking about eBay being the dark place of copyright infringement and different ways for people to be able to report. And we've actually, in the description of the video that everybody's watching, put the list of some of the information that they're going to need, when they're reporting copyright infringement. But the next thing I wanted to ask you, Gene, and to go from there, and you too, Greg, is okay. I'm an artist. I'm doing work for a company, but okay, how do I know what's my copyright and what isn't? Does that question make sense to you?
Yeah, sure.
Like if I get a job, it's my art. I'm doing the art. So why shouldn't it be my copyright?
Okay, so if you're a professional artist, okay, and a company calls you up and they say, okay, we're doing a balloon event. We need you to come up with 52 kitty characters that we're going to paint on balloons, and then we're going to auction them off for St. Jude's for cancer research. Okay. And you go, okay, fine. Now, you have to get a contract with these people, all right? If they hand you a work made for hire agreement, you have to make it very clear that you're either willing to give up the copyright on your art because it's your creation, or that they're paying you only for this particular use, period. That's up to you. You have to negotiate for yourself. You have to say, okay, yeah, you can, I'll do this for you. And, you want to pay me $200 a piece for 10 of these. So for a young artist, that sounds like it's a lot of money. Okay, but it's certainly not a lot of money to give up a character design copyright on at all. So you say to them, okay, well, listen, you're going to use this on umbrellas, and then what? And they say, well, no, we just need them on umbrellas. And you're going to say, okay, great. So I'm going to give you the right to use these on your umbrellas, but the copyright in the art is mine, and I want it in the work made for hire agreement, or I want it in the contract. Because it's my character, it's my creation, it's my design.
But now how about what if you're Keith is or any artist is hired to do a job for Marvel or DC or a big company,
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Steel, I don't care who that they're
Right.
doing a job for them.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, designing something, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is you're doing, Keith. Is that the next question? Is like how does it relate when it comes to a previous?
Okay, but Greg, you know that if a company calls you like Marvel or DC or and they say, whatever, SpiderMan is our character, okay, and we want you to paint SpiderMan, it's their copyright.
Mhm.
It's their copyright. It's that simple. It's their copyright. It's their copyrighted, trademarked character that you're doing your interpretation of. Now, the fine line, the question, the big if, the oh my God on this is always, let's say it's a comic book. You're doing a cover for a comic book of Spider-Man. And let's not say it's a painting. Let's say it's traditional comic art. Okay. You have a penciler, you have an inker, you have a colorist, you have a letterer. Okay. You have 4 people involved, and each one of them is doing a very unique part of the cover. So the question right now that they're trying to figure out is the entire finished cover copyrighted by Marvel, or does the artist own the original art of all of these different things? Okay? And maybe they have a piece of the copyright. The character is Marvel's. There's no question. The character itself is Marvel's. The character is copyrighted and more than likely trademarked, and so therefore you should know that the likelihood of you being able to use it for something else is very low. You can ask. You can ask. And maybe they'll say yes. But if you're going to do a show, let's say it's your first show, and you did a Magic the Gathering painting, it was your very first commercial job, and you want to do a backdrop for your booth, and you want one of these really huge vinyl backdrops, these really cool things that kids use, young kids, young people, everybody's a kid to me. Okay, and and pick up the phone, call the company, call the art director that you worked with on the job and say, hey, listen, I got my first booth at the Baltimore Comic Con, and I'd like to know, is it okay for me to reproduce that card art I did for you? I want to do it, 8 feet tall and 3 feet wide or 5 feet wide, whatever, so that I can height myself. They're going to say yes. Now, could you actually probably do that without asking? Yeah, probably. Legally, you could. Because it's for your own self-promotion. You're not selling the backdrop. On the other hand, if you ask, they will remember you asked, and that will matter to them, and they will remember you. And the next time they have the possibility of the job, they'll go, oh, wow, Sally asked. She cares about, what we think, and so let's give her another one. So there's all these little kind of finesse things that you want to, get around.
Yeah. Okay. So you brought up, there's a few different points in there that I would like to see if I can get any kind of clarification on. Now let's talk about Marvel and DC, just because they're the big names in the comic industry. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows their characters. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, right? We all know that those characters, their logos, their insignia, all of that are registered trademarks of those companies, right? That you see that everywhere. Registered trademark. That's it, right? Is it possible then for an artist who's not working for the company, who is just drawing pages to sell at a convention or whatever, to claim a copyright? Like, well, I did it for me. I wasn't working for the company, but I wanted to draw Batman, so I drew Batman. Is it possible then for an artist to claim a copyright to that page with that character being a registered trademark to another company?
Okay, that's a really good question, which goes to I think 70% of people don't know what they're doing. Okay, the answer to that is simple. It's no. It's not possible. Okay, now it doesn't mean people don't try, Keith, but the reality is, if it's a copyrighted character, you can't get it. It's not yours. You're probably going to die before it comes into the public domain, and so be it. If you're good and you're creative, create your own goddamn characters. Do your own goddamn art. Come up with your own shit in plain English that the copyright belongs to you. Now, you don't have to copy Marvel. You don't have to copy DC. You come up with your own superheroes. Come on, guys. There's 100 million possibilities out there of what's the next superhero.
Yeah, but I mean, sitting at a convention or wherever you're sitting, these people drawing these characters, who wants to buy a character that they don't know? Most people want a famous character drawn, don't they? Even if it's just...
I'm not saying that, Greg. That wasn't the point. The point that he was asking was, can they try and claim the copyright?
No, yeah.
So you're doing two different things here. You're talking about somebody, you're sitting at a convention, somebody comes up and says, hey, Greg, would you draw me a Batman head? Yeah, sure I will. Okay, fine. But that's only because up until now, DC, Marvel, Image, all these guys, they let that go. They let it be okay. And the reason they let it be okay was very simple. Because every time some young person walks up to you at a convention and says, hey, Mr. Hildebrandt, would you do this sketch cover for me? Or, hey, would you draw a really quick Wolverine head for my 6-year-old son because he loves Wolverine. He thinks he's really cool. And somebody sits there and whips out a pencil sketch or an ink of Wolverine or Cable or God knows what, and you charge 25 or 30 bucks. That's promoting Marvel. That's promoting DC. That's promoting Image. That's promoting the characters, the movies, the merch, all the crap in the world, and all they're losing is 25 bucks or 100 bucks or 50 bucks. But now the NFT world has turned that upside down because it's not 25 bucks anymore. And so now it'll be interesting to see if people really are going to, if the companies are going to start to kind of lock down on doing convention art, because you have no right to do it. There is no legal right to do it and sell it and make money from somebody else's character.
I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks with those sketch covers. You and I were talking about those sketch covers and how it encourages people to go around and get sketches of their characters, and they know full
Talk
well.
about explain what a sketch cover is to people that don't know what that is, right?
Okay, yes, very good, Greg. Thank you. Okay,
Wow.
when you and I talk about sketch covers,
That's what I do. That's my job.
sell comic books that have a white blank cover that has the logo and everything on it and has the full entire comic book inside. And I think even the original cover is inside, but they have these white covers that are good for drawing on. They sell them as sketch covers. And I as I was thinking about it, it's like, yeah, that was a brilliant move on their part, because if they can move people from getting a sketch on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and to where now, I have this comic and I want this sketch on this comic, they're essentially paying a tax to the company, a licensing fee to the company, because you have to buy the book. So every sketch book cover they're selling, they have sold a corresponding comic. And I was like, that's stroke of genius. It's like, that makes so much sense.
It's a stroke of genius, Keith, but most sketch covers are actually sold in comic stores. Okay, and they're not sold for that much more. The blanks are not sold for that much more than the comic itself. So the artist is still making way more for the sketch than the comic is worth. Okay, but now all of a sudden, it is. Yeah. It is, absolutely. But as long as the publisher themselves, is creating that product, it is an authorized product by Marvel, by DC, by Image, by Valiant, by anybody, any publisher that's ever been, it's their authorized product, then they have no problem with the artist doing that sketch cover. They have no problem with it because they know that that's promoting their brands. Okay, without a doubt. However, I think that one of the things that happens, which is I've noticed in the last 5 years, is people will send us a blank sketch cover that is I don't know, a SpiderMan book, and say to Greg, "Would you do Star Wars?" Like, why? I really don't know why, but so sometimes it actually doesn't work the way that the company wants it to work.
It's all one company now, isn't it? So you got to add Mickey Mouse, right? Right.
Well, of Marvel and
Star Wars and Disney. Good. I'd flip me out. I remember when we were at the Disneyland, and in one of the stores that first time. Remember when they were just merged?
Oh,
and there's
horrible.
Darth Vader with mouse ears on.
That's
horrible. I was like, that's sort of a mixed message.
It's horrible.
Or maybe it is a
weird message.
Especially since they were Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, Christmas ornaments on top of it.
And then there was one that was like Two-Face, but it wasn't Two-Face. It was Mickey Mouse on this side and Vader on this side.
And sitting there in that store, you know how it is in a store like that.
What side do you put on your Christmas tree?
Those stores, you see a whole row of them. It looks like, Fritz Lang's Metropolis or something, Okay.
All right. So we got off on a tangent. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, tangents are good.
That's an interesting side conversation of the the perpetuation of villains. I mean, the villains tend to be the most interesting characters to me,
Generally
you know,
speaking, for most people,
because
yeah.
they don't have to
Most
stick
people
to
like
a
the
very.
villain better.
Was
But then again, it's like you're celebrating a character that caused the destruction of like an entire planet.
you put Mickey Mouse ears on them?
Yes, but not really, Keith, because we all know that the Death Star is actually in a building in California,
It was a
the
special
Lucas
effect
Ranch.
structure.
Okay, and the planet is up high on a shelf. Okay, so
built
not
by
really. We didn't kill any. They didn't kill anybody.
built by the original ILM there with
Yeah.
Van Nuys with John Dykstra and all.
And how we know that is because we were there and we saw.
I actually touched the Ark of the Covenant. I got a nice photo of myself there, putting my hand on the Ark. I said, "It's plastic.
It's plastic.
It's plastic."
Well, if it was the real one, you would have gotten struck down.
Well, I mean, I understand that if you follow the directions by Yahweh on how to construct the thing back in the in the Old Testament, so-called Old Testament, I read somewhere, I don't know, maybe this is one of those apocryphal type things, that the materials produce a transmitter. So, like, that would make sense that you hear the voice coming out of that box. You know what I mean?
How do you
Yes.
do this? How do you even think about this shit?
I don't know. It was.
We'll have to have
it's
this conversation later because they were talking about how it could have been a battery as well,
yeah.
which then caused the shocks. But anyway, back to
Okay,
the conversation.
go back.
Gene.
Yeah.
Gene. Okay, so my follow-up question then for you is this. So I'm an artist and I make a fantastic SpiderMan image, right? It's one of the coolest SpiderMan images that is seen, come out on the internet.
Congratulations.
Right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations. But I didn't do it for Marvel. I didn't do it for Disney. But this thing is now making the rounds online, getting millions of likes. Can Marvel come in and take that piece because it's of their copyrighted material?
And when you say take, what do you mean take?
Well, they're like, well, you know what? I really like that image. We own the copyright to that image because there are registered trademark characters, and we want to use it on our products.
Well,
And then do it.
this
That's
is
a good one.
This is a very good question. It's an excellent question. Okay. And one I didn't know you were going to ask. Okay.
But
So,
I'll get back to you on that.
No, I will never get back to you on it. I'll answer it now.
No, I mean that's the cop out for most.
I know.
I'll get back to you on that.
I don't use a cop out because I don't know if I'm going to be here next week. So the answer is no, they can't. Okay. And I'll explain to you why. So any artist, every artist, can create one of a kind original art of anything in the universe. It's their right. One of a kind original art. Don't make copies of it because now you're making something that is going against the copyright law. Okay. You can paint every single Marvel character, original paintings or original inks or original pencils or whatever it is that you want to use for various reasons. You want to use for portfolio pieces to get you work. You want to make them for your kids. You want to make them for your nieces and nephews. You want to make them for the 6th grade class at school. Whatever. You're giving them away. Okay? Or you're selling them. That's your legal right. Copyright is about making copies of an original. That's what it's about. Copyright law is to protect and stop people from making copies. So in other words, you paint this Batman signal for me 5 feet by 5 feet so I can hang it on my wall in my bat cave. Okay. Did I say that? Oh my God. Okay.
What the hell?
I don't have a bat cave, trust me. Okay. Now, if I take this and I hang that painting, I can pay you $5,000 to paint this bat signal for me. I hang it in my back cave over my black couch. It's mine. I own it. I paid for it. Okay. I can't take a photo of it and start making 8x10 prints and selling those prints. Now you have infringed the copyright of this bat signal. Okay? Anyone can change a contract. Most artists I have found in 41 years in this business have no idea that they can actually negotiate a contract. The way to learn how to negotiate a contract is to read the contract. Start there. I would say 99% of all artists that I have met have never read a contract. They just sign them. They want the job, they sign them. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you do that, if you don't read it, if you don't understand it before you sign it, and then a few years later you do something and the company says, you can't do that, it's in the contract, that's on you. Because you didn't read it, you didn't understand it, and you signed it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, my experience is most very young artists just starting out are going to sign anything because they need the work. All right, I get that. But if that's what you do, forget that art because you don't own it. And you're never going to own it. And it's going to piss you off as you get older and you get more successful, you know, and you know, wow, I should have never given up I created that character. I should have never given up that copyright. Too bad you did that. Okay, or don't do it. Now, it's a little more risky when you're young. Somebody comes to you and they say, we want you to create a character for us for this, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, okay, fine. And then you ask them very nicely. You say, so what are you going to use it for? Oh, we're going to put it on a book cover. Okay. Are you going to make any merchandise? No. We're going to put it on a book cover. Okay. You think you're going to license it? No. We're going to put it on a book cover. Okay, good. Then I'm going to draw this for you or paint this for you, and I'm going to give you the rights in the contract to reproduce it for a book cover and nothing else. All the other rights stay with me. Copyright is mine. The rights are mine. And then if you ever in the future want to actually do something else, just call me up and we can negotiate that separately. Now that takes balls if you're young, but who cares? What have you got to lose if you're young? They're not paying you enough to worry about it. You know? So.
Yeah, one of the comments that
Well, I mean, no, I grew up in a time frame when before I got famous with the Lord of the Rings, even though you could negotiate more after that, sort of like, global recognition thing, would ask for, more money for a job. And they would say, there's 50 artists standing in line for this job.
I didn't say money. I didn't say ask more money, Greg.
Well, I mean, the gut, take the balls thing. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to do that.
I understand.
Because you always are living on an edge of, I need to work, as a freelancer especially, right? You'll take just about any job you can get and say, yeah, anybody calls you, yes, the word is always yes, and so you're afraid to say no, or you're afraid to try to challenge anybody.
I know.
But so it does take guts.
You have no power in the situation. Or
None.
You feel
None
that you have
whatsoever.
no power in the situation.
Right.
Yes, okay. You have no power in a situation. However, how you present something is basically will define the end result all the time in any negotiation in your life. Okay, so if you're nice and you can explain yourself and you're courteous, okay, people are willing to work with you. If you're an asshole and you say, I'm designing this and I'm creating it, so everything belongs to me, fuck you. Well, in that case, trust me, you're not getting more money, you're not getting the copyright, and you're not getting the job, And I will actually segue, which I don't usually segue.
Bada boom.
But this was a perfect.
You get your drums out, Keith.
Right.
Keith is a drummer. Get your let's do a few of those. Bada boom. Those would be cool. Right?
This is a perfect example for all young artists who are listening, if you are listening, or if you're going to ever watch this video. Don't do this, ever. Years ago, I had my own book publishing company for 18 years. I published books. And one year I put out a call to artists like I always do, and all these artists were coming in, and one at a time we made appointments, and they came into the conference room, and I'd sit with their portfolios, and some of them got jobs and some of them didn't. One day, there was an appointment, and my secretary at the time got me on the intercom. She said, "The young man is in the conference room." And I said, "Okay." She said, "I think he came out of the Capone era." I said, "The Capone era?" She said, "Yeah, Gene." She said, and this is in the 90s. I want you to understand, like 92, 93. She said, "Yeah, he's in a white suit with a black shirt and a white tie."
Sounds like the Frank Nitti
I
out
said,
of
"How old is he?"
the Frank Nitti out of The Untouchables
The
by Brian De
Untouchables,
Palma.
right. She said, 20? I said, "Okay." And so I go into this conference room, and very nice looking young man, beautifully dressed. Okay. I open up his portfolios. I brought 2 portfolios. I look at everything. Good artist, not a great artist, good artist. Okay. And I said, "Okay, well, for a kid's book, this is what we pay up front. This is the royalty we pay. Okay. Are you interested? If you are, I will, put you in my queue, and if I get a book that I think fits your art, I will call you." He says to me, "What do you pay Hildebrandt?"
But boom. No, that
I
was
said,
wrong.
"What'd you say? What do you pay Hildebrandt?" I said, "You're seriously not asking me this question, are you? In my offices?" And he said, "I want to know what you pay Hildebrandt, because that's what I want you to pay me, because I'm as good as Hildebrandt is." You never heard this story, did you?
No.
At which point I flipped both of his portfolios closed. I said, "Get the fuck out, and don't let the door hit you in the ass."
But boom. That's
Okay.
where it goes.
Now,
right?
don't ever do that, because trust me, you will not get the job. Okay? So be nice, be courteous, try and figure it out, try and work it out, work through it. I've taken contracts that artists have sent me and said, "Hey, Gene, can you look at this for me?" And I've changed them drastically from what they were willing to sign. And you can learn that every sentence in every single contract. You can go to the internet, type in the sentence, and you will get a definition of what it means. You cannot say, "I didn't know." You cannot say that. When I started in business 41 years ago, there was no internet. I had to, use books. I had to figure out this
What's a
stuff. I had to understand what's a book, right? I had to use dictionaries to understand what lawyers were throwing at me, and then try and bring it down into layman's terms and say, "Is this what you mean? Because if that's what you mean, that's not okay with me."
Was it ignorance is no defense?
Right.
Ignorance is
in regards to the law?
no defense. So, okay, so there's a lot to kind of wade through and unpack. One of those terms, though, you were talking about that it's good to point out is particularly if you're licensing your own stuff, is the in perpetuity.
Oh, yeah.
Where somebody wants your work, but they want the rights to use your work forever until the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily the...
That could be in a week.
Yeah, it could be in a week.
These days, the way things are going, that could be.
Stop.
We never... You kids today, I'm telling you.
Okay, stop. Go ahead. Keep being serious. You're being an asshole. Go ahead. Yeah.
Remember the ending of Doctor Strange?
Stop! And your question is?
I want to address, so 1-6-shooter. He says that, IPs need to create a way for micropayments from fan art sales so people could do low print runs, etc., or have outlets that will allow sales and take a cut for royalties. I think that's kind of what we were talking about with sketch covers, where, if Marvel and DC can encourage people to buy sketch covers to get their convention sketches done, they get a little bit of change. The what I initially thought that was saying, that when I first glanced at it, was um, companies working out ways for artists to be able to use their stuff in other ways. And I was going to bring up uh, like Wizards of the Coast with Magic.
Sure.
You know, they actually allow prints. You know, artists can make prints of their card art to do and sell.
And they can make
Something
those
that,
play mats,
the play mats and things like that, and it's they
Baseballs.
actually give permission right up front.
I'm trying to be funny.
And so then I think copyright law would be challenged if these IP holders were taking down vendors at cons left and right, but they had let it slide until it reaches some unknown threshold of infringement. Yes.
Wait, give me that again. I want to hear that.
I'm
again.
going to.
Slowly.
I was reading it quickly out loud.
Yeah.
So she says, I think copyright law would be challenged if these IP holders were start to take down vendors at cons left and right, but they had let it slide until it reaches some unknown threshold of infringement.
Who said that?
1 6-shooter.
Okay, so handle. 1 6-shooter, whatever your name is. Love your handle. Okay, it's a great handle. Okay, you're wrong. Now, I don't say that very often to people flat out. You're wrong. You're talking about precedent. That's what you're talking about. You think you're going to win on precedent in a court of law that says, well, you've been doing this for years and you didn't stop us for years, so then fuck you. You lose your IP.
Do they talk like that in court?
I do.
Okay.
Now, the reality is, here's why you're wrong. If you read your contract, they're allowing you to own your originals. You don't even own your originals. Almost every contract that's out there basically says that they're allowing you to hold on to them. They're not saying.
No, I think.
Oh yeah, Keith, believe me.
No. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think what 1 6-shooter is saying is more of what we were talking about with Bill Watterson last week, where he let the infringement of his work go for so long that he could no longer enforce it. I think that's
I understand what you're saying, but see, this is the conversation that the people in the comic industry have been having with me for 3 or 4 months now about NFTs. Okay. I own my originals, like they say. I own my original, so therefore the original is mine. So therefore I can make an NFT, because an NFT is nothing more than a digital representation. It is not a copy. Of course it's a copy. Don't be ridiculous. It's a copy. Okay, now, but then they say, well, but they let me do sketch covers. And they let me, they haven't stopped me. Okay? They have a trademark on these characters. They're not going to lose their trademark in a million years. If they want to come down on the artist, they will lose. The artist will lose in court. Okay? It will be drawn out. It will be forever.
The lawyers will come out on top.
Yeah, the lawyers will come out on top for sure. Okay? But all they're going to say is that they've been allowing you to make additional monies, okay, through their graciousness. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to lose a copyright. There's no way Marvel's going to lose a copyright. There's no way DC's going to lose a copyright. If anything, these companies are so big, they keep going back into the courts to try and redo copyrights that they didn't fucking own in the first place. Okay? 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was, Disney and Warner Brothers were fighting in the courts, and I never did pay attention to what the outcome was. They were going to the Supreme Court to try and get the copyright on The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz was written in 1900. It was in the public domain for so many years it wasn't funny. But both of these companies were trying to get the United States Copyright Office and the Supreme Court of the United States to give them the copyright on something that had fallen into the public domain so many years ago because they made a movie. And their fight was, once you've seen our movie, you can't ever not see our movie. and everything is a derivative of our movie. So therefore, we own the copyright. Now, I'm going to bet, without even looking at the outcome of that lawsuit, that they didn't win that one. Okay, the Wizard of Oz is still in the public domain, and they have the copyright on their movie, their interpretation of Baum's book from 1900. Okay, but they're not going to let anybody ever take their copyrights or their trademark.
Yeah, no. So I think we got 2 to 3 different things going on there. Like again, if he's still watching and wants to, or she, sorry, wants to chime in, yeah, he's agreeing now that that's what he meant with it just being the small time vendors at comic book shows. They're doing their thing, and or the sorry, I'm getting confused in my speech now. Like Bill Watterson let his go so much that he couldn't defend it, right? So there's the one thing.
What do you mean?
Then you have the other thing of that.
But Keith, I don't know what Bill Watterson did or didn't do. I mean, did he never try and stop an infringement?
Yeah, he just let it all go.
Okay, well that's totally different. Yep. The court could look at that and say, okay, this man had absolutely no interest in his copyright from the beginning. And so therefore, by never making an attempt, he did set a precedent that it didn't matter to him that someone else was using his art. Okay? But I said last time, 20% of my year every year for the last 30 years is fighting copyright infringement of the Hildebrandt art and other artists that I know. Okay. We don't lose a copyright because I missed some of them. There's hundreds of them out there that
and
I don't even know exist. Okay. But because I can prove that I have fought every copyright infringement that I have found for how many years, okay, no one's taken copyrights away from us. And Warner Brothers.
And I don't think that that they're suggesting that. I think what they're looking at is that you go into any convention in the U.S. or across the world, you have all these vendors that are selling Spider-Man prints, Batman prints, whatever. I don't know that Marvel and DC could go after them as individuals, because
wait, why? Are they making the prints?
No, this is okay. So, how do you
Who's
think
manufacturing the prints that are in that booth? Who?
I'm me, right? I haven't worked for Marvel and DC, but I go to New York Comic Con and I'm sitting at my booth, and I am one of now 1,000 people doing Spider-Man sketches, right?
Yeah.
I think if Marvel tried to then come after me as an individual, there would be a lot of evidence, not that I would take the copyright or that I could steal the copyright or anything like that, but I would be like, look, there are literally thousands of people that have been doing this year in and year out now for the last 30 years at conventions. If they want me to stop, I'll stop, but what kind of damages are they going to be able to do to me? I think that if Marvel and DC truly wanted it to stop, they would have to stop it at the higher up level in the convention and just have the convention owners not allow it.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
sounds right.
There have been plenty of years, Keith, you have to understand, where Marvel and DC have come into conventions and stopped it, but not for the best artists. Okay?
Yeah.
So, if they give their okay to Adam Kubert, Andy Kubert, Walt Simonson, I don't know, God knows who, okay, and they say, yeah, you can do this, then they're giving them the right to do it. And then they still have the right to walk around and stop everyone else in that convention because it's their copyrighted character. They're giving permission, and then they're taking it away from people who don't have permission. Mm-hmm. We were at a convention, I won't say what convention, about 5 years ago, and I was setting up my booth, walking around. It was a mid-sized convention, and there was a booth that was exactly what you're talking about. Okay, and I saw all this Hildebrandt stuff in the front of the booth. Okay, old, new, Prince, okay, stuff that was never authorized as Prince, and I would know that because I would be the one who would do it. Okay, and then I'm looking around and I see Marvel, and I know it's not authorized, and DC, and I know it's not authorized, and God knows every other thing on the planet. And I walked in, and the guy didn't know who I was and didn't know who he was. And I do this kind of thing quite often because I'm an asshole when it comes to this stuff. And I said, "So, where'd you get this? This stuff's great. Where'd you get all this Hildebrandt stuff?" "Oh, we make it." I said, "Oh, you got a Hildebrandt license? Really? How did you do that?" And they don't ever have an answer to that question because there is no answer. And then I say, "This is Greg Hildebrandt. I'm his agent. I'm confiscating that shit because it's illegal." And then he'll start taking it right off the wall. Okay. And in that particular case, in that particular show, I had a 30-foot booth, and I walked away and I said, "Oh no." And I found the guys that run the show, that own the show, and I said, "You do realize that that booth is 100% illegitimate?" And they're like, "Really?" I said, "Don't give me that. I didn't want to see that face." I said, "So we have a choice now. He stays or I leave. Let's go. I'm staying, he's staying. Who's staying? Because I'll pack up right now, move my shit. I don't need this show." And we stayed. So, it's not okay. But
Mhm.
you have to have enough balls if it's your stuff to walk up to a booth and say, "Where did you get the right to print that? That's my art." And just lift it. Because if you didn't give them the right, it doesn't belong to them, it belongs to you. I don't care that they paid you.
Mhm. Okay, so now I have a separate question for you coming off of that one, right? Now, we're talking about very specific, they're taking Greg's actual images and trying to sell his art, right? Just illegal copies of his art, right? That's what that was. That isn't someone who is doing quote unquote fan art.
No.
Would you have the same reaction if, say, you went into a convention and you saw someone who had created fan art of Emerald 7 characters?
Are you talking about the originals or copies?
No, like say I did my own interpretation of the Emerald 7 characters,
Emerald
right?
7, for everybody that doesn't know, is a story that my son wrote and my brother and I illustrated for the Frank Frazetta Fantasy magazine several years ago. A 4-part story wherein that we created all the characters and environments and happenings in the story.
Okay, now Keith,
Thank you, Greg.
define this for me. When I look at the art, did they copy Greg Hildebrandt's art? Or did
No,
they do their own thing?
it's clearly Keith Garlett's art,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
It's in Keith Garlett's style,
Okay.
but it's
It's my character.
clearly his characters.
Okay. And what do I do in that case? Because I've done this many times. This is not like it's a new question. I will say to the young artist, male, female, whoever you are, I just don't even. I never introduce myself first. Never. I don't want to give people a heart attack. And I'll just say, "So, wow, what is this? Tell me what this is." Now, if they're really straight with me, and they say, "Oh, the Brothers Hildebrandt did this, this great story, and I really, really like it, so I want to try and do my own thing with it." I go, "Oh, because you like the Brothers Hildebrandt work." "Yeah, it's really cool. I learn a lot. I learn a lot about, light and color and, composition and blah, blah, blah from their work." I'll usually go, "Fine, this is Greg Hildebrandt." And then they go, "Ah!" Okay. And they can't breathe. Now, because they don't know what the reaction is going to be. At that point, he's going to look at that art and he's going to say, "Okay, you should have done this, move this, the composition's wrong over here." He's going to give him, an art lesson, and then we're going to walk away. Now, there's a show called AluxCon, which is a fantasy show in Reading, Pennsylvania, that I love the show. I really fucking love the show. And the artists there are phenomenal. Believe me, phenomenal. It's in October every year. And they have this thing that they call a salon, which is where young artists, they get this giant room in the hotel, and at night after the show closes, The salon opens, and there's 200 or 300 young artists with a 10-foot table or an 8-foot table, whatever. Each person buys a table. And I have walked up to artists with Greg and said, "Yo, wow, love the Batman. Oh, you're selling prints. Great. You got that license from DC?" Now, I know they don't have a license from DC. I know they didn't do it for DC. The point is, that's my way of saying, why are you doing something illegal? And then I will get into a conversation with that young artist and explain to them why they need to take that shit off their table because they have no right to do it and they have no right to sell it. Fine, you want to sell your original? Okay, good. You have a right to do that original. You have a right to sell it, but you have no right to make multiple copies of it. And they do. Right? I've never seen an artist not have an intelligent conversation with me, try and understand what I'm talking about, take this stuff off the table, put it underneath. Now, do I think they didn't go to the next convention and sell it? No, I think they probably did go to the next convention and sell it because they need the money. But I'm trying to educate them. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
So
okay. So in that conversation, we have shifted a little bit from talking about the copyrights, and copyright holding, and we got into a little bit about contracts and negotiating copyright in contracts, right?
Right.
But I wanted to get into that a little bit more, and I'm trying to think of how to segue here. Okay, so obviously when you're dealing with Marvel or DC or a big property company, whether it's even Harry Potter that you're dealing with, any kind of big IP, you're as a work for hire, you're never going to be able to negotiate keeping your own copyright. That's just it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. Okay. Yeah.
However, sometimes people are approached by smaller companies, right? Like, oh, hey, I'm this comic book writer and I need someone to come up with these characters for me or things like that. When do you think keeping your copyright comes into play in a contract? And if that question doesn't make sense in context,
no, it makes complete sense. But using your example, here's what I have to say. Every contract in the world is unique. At least it should be. Okay. And let's say your friend went to art school and ended up being a writer. Okay. And he comes to you and he says, "Hey Keith, I got this storyline and I want to work with you on it. Will you do the art? Blah blah blah." Okay. The first thing I would suggest you would say was, "Yeah, sure, I'd like to, Harry, but then we have a joint copyright in this project because nothing has been created. There's some words on a piece of paper, and if you are going to create what everything looks like, the characters, the environments, the weapons, the machinery, the guns, the vehicles, the sky, the mountains, and the buildings, okay, then you and the writer should have a joint copyright in it. Okay? If they come to you and they say, "Oh, we're doing an illustrated classic of Dracula," which is a public domain story, all right, we want you as a work made for hire, okay, to illustrate it. The first thing you say is, "Okay, that's great, but I own the copyright in my art." And then they say, "What? Why? It's a work made for hire." And you say, yeah, it's a work made for hire. So what you're paying me for is to paint my interpretation of a public domain character that you're going to print on this poster over here, which is perfectly fine because you're in the poster business. Except it's my interpretation of Dracula, not yours. There is no Dracula on the planet. Okay. And so you fight to keep the copyright in that art. They get to make their posters, you get to do everything else. And that's why I say each contract is specific. Each contract is unique. Each instance is specific. But you can do that. But you're absolutely right. Look, you know, as an agent, one of the things I try and do, I mean, obviously the last year and a half is kind of a little weird because everybody's been working from home and inside, and industries basically shut down. But Greg has done, I don't know, probably 12, 15 Marvel covers in the last 6 years. Okay. It's not even a question in my head who owns the copyright on that art. You know,
Yeah.
I get him those jobs because he loves comic characters and he wants to do them. He wants to paint Wolverine, or he wants to paint Captain America, and he knows he's not going to own the copyright on it, and I know he's not. It's fine. You have to determine, as an artist, what are you doing a job for? Why do you want to take the job? If it's just for money, that's one thing. But everything you paint is a career move. So if Marvel comes to you and says, hey, you know, 12 paintings. I need 12 paintings, you know, of these 12 Marvel characters. That's good for your career.
Hmm.
Don't even think about wanting to have a conversation about that you're going to do something else with it. But also keep in mind that you always have the right as an artist to use any piece of art you've ever done in art books about you, anthologies of your life. Okay? Nobody can stop you doing that. The only time that will not be the case is, let's say you've been doing comic art most of your life professionally, and you want to do an art book, and all of a sudden you realize that, you know, 60% of your book is Marvel. Now your art book is a problem because now it's not just an anthology of your life, it's an anthology of Marvel. And so you got to go to them and say, okay, guys, I'm doing this book, and you know, blah, blah, blah. And is it okay with you, or do you want part of the royalty, or what do you want? They won't stop you from doing it because, again, it's just good for them. It's
Yeah.
more promotion for them. But the 10% rule, never have in an art book more than 10% of any one property. The second you have more than 10%, you owe them money. So, is that a dog in your lap?
It is.
I want to see the dog, not you.
Everybody does.
I know. I'm not different. Oh, no, baby. Look at that giant. Oh, beautiful. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm doing animal rights lover. Okay.
Yes.
Dream is to
So,
swim
yeah,
with a tiger. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, like 10 minutes ago, she just like climbed up in my lap. So
Couldn't be
great.
any cuter for Tryin.
I love
Okay,
that.
I love that.
I
Okay.
love that when my cats
All
come
right.
on my drawing board.
Since I can't
So-
see the questions, I don't even know if people are watching, how many people are watching, if there are questions. I don't know what's
we do have people watching. We have people that are there's conversations going on the side of
With
about
each
the
other?
stuff, just commenting.
yeah,
on-
with each
yeah,
other.
commenting on what we're talking about.
Okay.
Again, you know, 1-6 shooters. I guess he takes toy photos, and he has worked with different licensings, but some of the stuff he's not doing it with the company, but he's selling prints of his toy photos.
What kind of
You
toys,
know,
Mr. Six Shooter? What
action
kind of toys?
action figures. Probably he didn't. Instead of action figures, he didn't list what properties, though. I'm sure it's probably multiple properties.
Okay, what does he
Um,
do? What does he do with his photography?
He's making prints and selling it.
Ask him, or
Now,
I'll ask him. Give me a specific toy that you're making prints of.
well, I think again, I'm going back in time from my memory. He knows that by the letter of the law, what he's doing is not right.
Oh,
But,
great! Congratulations. Okay. Seriously, Keith. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. And so one thing that he was saying is that he wished that there was some kind of way for, you know, him to pay a royalty to these companies. Now, to answer him, in some venues, I don't know about, like, you know, action figure photography, but with these print-on-demand T-shirt companies that have popped up, like Redbubble and TeePublic and things like that, because they were dealing with so much copyright infringement, right? On their sites, they have started working with the different content holders to make what they call fan art programs, right? Where, like, if I do, this one just pops into my head, Rick and Morty, right? It's a cartoon. Down, Fosbear. It's a cartoon, and if I do a Rick and Morty drawing and I want to sell it on a T-shirt, I can now submit it through their fan art program, right? The people at the company, whoever owns Rick and Morty, can review it. And if they like it and it fits, they'll give the official okay. And then part of the money comes back to me as the artist, and part of the money goes to them. So, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I need to clarify also with 1/6 shooter. I said that he was selling them. He's jumping in and saying, no. He is not selling them. He just wishes that he was able to sell them. Okay.
Oh,
That's
well,
a big difference.
big difference.
That's a big difference.
That's a
So,
real big
yeah.
difference. Okay.
Want to bail 1/6 shooter out there. That was me. I misspoke. I misquoted you. I was going from my memory. Sorry about that. But yeah, the different places have what they are now calling fan art programs, of where they will make it easier to get a license agreement without it being like a really big deal, right? So those are there.
That's nice of them, but let me ask him: is there a market for what he does? Why does he think people want to buy photos of toys?
That's
I want to hear what he has to say.
a
All right, 1/6 shooter, you're up, man.
Come on,
lady.
go!
bada boom. Start shooting.
I'll tell you what though, I have seen. I don't know if their 1/6 shooters work. I have seen people take photos of toys, and they do these really elaborate setups and lighting setups, and like
That's been going on for quite a while.
add effects to them and stuff like that.
But I don't know. Is that what he's doing? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
Yes, that's
I
what
have
he's
no
doing.
context.
Yes,
to what he's
people
doing.
do want prints. People are wanting prints of his work.
What's his number one most favorite toy?
All right. So we'll just keep talking until he answers again, because I think it's like a 15-second delay between when they hear us and all that. So yeah, what's 1/6 shooter's favorite toy?
What's his favorite toy? Okay, now also, what does he want to charge for them? What size are his prints? I want to know. 8x10, 11x17, 16x20, 20x24, 24x36. What size are you making? Okay. What size do you want to sell, and how much do you want to sell them for?
But what difference does that make if he's got no copyright on them? He can't copyright.
I'm trying to understand what he's thinking, right?
Okay, so he's answered these. They're mythic legions, right? They're fantasy figures. Okay, mythic legion are action line figures. They're very detailed, and they're created by this company called the Four Horsemen, and those guys are based out of Jersey. One of them I know went to the Kubert school, and they called him Corn Boy. So he might have been there when you were teaching, Greg.
Corn Boy? I don't remember.
That was his nickname, Corn Boy, because he was maybe from the South or something like that. They called him.
The corn.
But these guys are incredible sculptors, and they started off, I think, working for Todd McFarlane's company, and then went out on their own, and now they design stuff for Mattel and for everybody. The mythic legions figures are really, really cool.
Yeah, we know them.
So yeah, okay. So he's also saying he's a huge fan of yours, Greg. So 9x12 prints for $30 to $40. He does the photography, all the photography, and then they let me sell those prints. Okay, so Four Horsemen seem to let him sell the prints.
Great.
All right.
And why do that? Because they get an additional audience for their product.
Mm-hmm. It's like
That's why.
advertising.
And because
Now,
they
are you?
know that you're not selling thousands of them. That's
Yeah.
why they
Do you
let you.
do you again talking to 1-6 shooter? Do you do any of the promotional photography um, that they put online or anywhere like that? Like, because there's a lot of like again product photography
Right.
where they do these shots and they look amazing.
Yeah.
Yep, he does all the work for them. So yeah, so he's doing
Okay.
it.
So that's why they let him
All
do
right,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
And so
but
then
I'm not
yes,
sure
he's
that
familiar
I'm
with
not sure then what his
your work.
questioning was. If they already let him do it, what was he
He's
asking?
but okay, these are the ones he's doing that are official and they allow him to sell and all that. But I'm sure that he has a lot more that he probably doesn't sell that he's not allowed to sell that people would like.
Mm,
You know, I'm,
Okay.
sure.
So
if I'm
has he tried to get a license?
all great questions.
Have you picked up the phone and called Marvel and said, can I do this and pay you? I mean, I don't know what they'd say, but I mean, there's certain companies for sure, like Lucas. You're not going to get a license. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter.
You
And
know,
if you get a license, you can't afford it, so forget about it. Because years ago, George Lucas handed over to Acme the all the licensing for all the Star Wars, Indiana Jones, on and on art that pertain to all of his movies. Acme gets 10%, George Lucas gets 15%, so that's a 25% royalty, which means you can't make a dime. It's not worth it. Keep going. But
yeah, he's agreeing because he said that he actually tried to get a Star Wars official artist designation, and and then he's agreeing with everything you're saying. He can't get one.
no.
So
Too many people want that designation because then they get to go to the Star Wars fancy yada 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 shows, and they're allowed to make 200 prints of what they did and sell them themselves and all of that. Okay, but I don't really know what the criteria is. I'm sure I could get Greg designated. I'm sure I've never tried.
that look on his face.
Designated.
But
I
anyway,
love
Whoa.
him. I
How
love
he's
him.
saying
I'm not going to get him designated.
How about getting me designated for my mob
It's
rules?
funny. He asked me a
painting?
question about he did a couple of Marilyn Monroe paintings, and he said, and this was just after in between these 2 weeks, and he said, yeah, but I did Marilyn. You're talking about copyright infringement. I did Marilyn from, and I said, yeah, and he said, didn't I? Isn't that a copyright infringement? I said, no. I said, you did Marilyn paintings for me to use as samples that I gave to the Bradford Exchange when we were working for 20 years with the Bradford Exchange on collectibles for you to become an official Marilyn Monroe artist, which you did, and then never did another Marilyn Monroe painting again. So he was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Now I don't print Marilyn. I don't make prints of those."
You can't
those
remember
paintings.
everything.
But so
I
there's
got
there's
one more question.
a balance. Go ahead.
Yep. Sorry. 2 things here. Okay, 1-6 shooter. No, you're not. You don't need to apologize for dominating the conversation. We actually like the exchange with the people watching. It adds a different dynamic.
Absolutely.
So please, absolutely, no one feel free or feel bad for asking questions or getting an exchange going. That's
Absolutely.
why we're doing all this.
Right.
Yep.
And someone in the past, again, I'm not going to quote them exactly, but they asked about the Kong painting. You did a Kong painting.
Mhm.
And did you have to get permission to do the Kong painting? Or if you did not get permission, why did you not have to get Kong permission?
All right. So again, this falls into the category of an artist can paint anything he wants once. Okay, it's an original. We're not making prints of it, and I mean, I actually did make a few clays that we gave away to people. Okay, as
Like
gifts.
what? 5 of them or something like that.
I think it was 6, but I gave them away. Okay, his kids got them.
Okay, so
But
that's a crucial point is that they were giveaways and not for financial gain.
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. No, you know, but if I wanted to do financial gain on King Kong, I personally, because it was Greg, you know, would have gone to whoever the copyright holder was and said, listen, you know, Greg did this. He's doing this whole series of, you know, what if I was, you know, not born in 1939. This was my idea, uh, and I was, you know, I was old enough in the 40s and 50s to get hired as a professional artist to do the movie posters for my absolute favorite movies. What would those posters look like? What would I have done? Okay, and so he does his own interpretation of that. He's only done a few of them. I'd like him to do more, but there's never enough hours in the day. But it's only an original. That's what it is. If I wanted to try and reproduce it, I'd go to the copyright holder and say, let's work together. And if you like it, and we'll do it. You know, a perfect example I will give you of this is Joe Simon, who is the creator of Captain America,
Co-creator with Jack Kirby.
of Captain America. Okay, first cover, right? It was the first cover hitting Hitler, right?
Yep.
Okay, first cover, boom, hitting Hitler. Okay, now Joe was a friend of ours, and he loved Greg, and he loves Greg's art, and Greg, over the years, had sketched out his own interpretation of that first cover. It wasn't a copy of that cover; it was Greg's interpretation of that cover, and you know, completely different composition, whatever. Okay, it certainly didn't look like Joe's Captain America, and
But when you
finally,
look at it, you could tell it's an homage,
right.
right?
So
Bam,
finally,
right hook to
you know,
Hitler.
one day, Joe passes away, and a couple of years later, Greg says, "You know what? I got some time in between these two jobs. I want to paint this." I said, "Fine, paint it."
Well, the 75th anniversary was coming up too, right?
But that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, but
That's what
coincidentally,
but that's what made you think of it.
Yeah.
It was the 75th anniversary of Captain America. And he said, you know, I did that sketch and I'd like to paint it. And I said, fine, paint it. We'll hang it in the living room. What do I care? Okay. And it rocked. The painting rocked. It was really gorgeous. And so, you know, I took a digital shot of it and I sent it to Marvel, to the, you know, senior editor in charge of creative development. And I said, hey, do you want to use this for something? Greg just finished it. I'll scan it. And they were like, oh, God, yes, please. Can we use this on a Captain America cover? I was like, yeah, sure. So they paid us the same fee as if they had hired him to paint a cover. And that was it, you know. But they weren't upset. They were thrilled to death that, you know,
we've made
he did it. And they
prints
loved it.
of that picture to sell at conventions and elsewhere, but under Marvel's, you know, go on.
I get what he's saying, and like, because that's
No, but explain it then.
You have several Marvel things that are for sale, prints, right?
Yeah.
Right, but Marvel actually produced those for you, right?
Yes, they did.
Right. So instead of doing what a lot of artists do, which is just, you know, they take a scan of their art and they go down to Staples and they produce 11 by 17 prints and they sell them at conventions. I called up Marvel and I said, I want to get some of Greg's covers for conventions. I want to sell them. I want a license. Give me a license. I'll pay you a royalty. What do you want? And they were so sweet. They were like, okay, Gene, seriously, how many do you going to sell? I said, I don't know. Make me between, you know, I said, maybe 50, 100 over 5 years. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's not like it's some big seller. But they said, no. You know, we would rather artists do this, but most of them don't. We'll make them for you. I said, how cool is that? Thank you. And so I paid them a fee for them to physically make the prints and deliver them, but they put their indicia on it. You know, they made it look like the cover of the book. It was great. It was fabulous. So it's very high quality, beautifully printed, beautifully designed by Marvel, and I paid them, and then I sell them. And you know, it's a good low end product because I like to have products at our booth that range from $5 up. Because a lot of people want what they're buying is a signature. They're buying a master print for $5, and it's got Greg's signature on it. He's signing it to Johnny, to Tim, to Susie, whatever. So
very cool. So I mean, I know that we could talk about this stuff, and again, contracts. I mean, we only scratched like the proverbial tip of the iceberg when talking about contracts. But we are now at 5:20. So
The chickens are waiting.
chickens are
The chickens are waiting. Everybody, I
Finally.
want you to know Keith has the greatest chickens. They are beautiful. I haven't seen the ducks yet. Chickens are cool. Chickens
Yes.
are cool.
the ducks are crazy. They're crazy. Like
Daffy Ducks.
the only way I could describe the ducks is if you animated one insane duck and then copy pasted it 2 more times, and because they run in a trio constantly.
That's
Right?
great.
They're
It's
just,
you
they
mean like
always move.
Huey,
in a
Dewey, and
pack of
Louie.
3.
you mean it's like CGI?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, just and they're crazy. They
That's great.
okay. I'm gonna just
And-
I'm gonna have one last sentence I'm gonna throw out here on contracts, Keith, and then let you sign off. I really, really, really do think that anyone who is signing a contract of any kind, and I don't care if it's art, I don't care you're buying a car, I don't care what the contract is. If you're signing an agreement, read it. If you don't understand it, figure out what you don't understand and go find the definition of it so you can ask questions. The more questions you ask about contracts, the more you understand contracts, the better you get, the quicker you can defend yourself, the quicker you can get to a point where you can say, well, yeah, this really doesn't work for me, and this is why it doesn't work for me. Because you can't just say to somebody, oh, I don't want that in my contract.
People
You have to be able to explain yourself carefully, and you can't do that unless you know what you're talking about.
And by that you mean when you say, again, just for the sake of reiteration, that go find out the definition. You don't mean go get a lawyer. You mean go
No, I mean
to the
go to
internet
the internet.
and find the
Yeah,
answer.
totally. Go to the internet.
Yep.
It's all there. But Keith, you said, and I know this is longer than I want to take, but you were talking about perpetuity, a contract in perpetuity, meaning forever and ever and ever, and don't ever sign anything in perpetuity, for God's sakes. Okay, because if you're signing a license with a company, you have to have a benchmark, you have to have a time frame. So there should be a term of the agreement, let's say it's a year or 2 years, the first 2 years. And if this, and this doesn't happen in that first 2 years, then the rights revert back to you for that product. Because if they're doing a shit job, why do you want a contract that's going to last forever? You don't. You want to protect yourself at all times. Okay? And a contract that runs forever is ludicrous because the likelihood of that company being in business in 5 years is probably very low. Just saying.
Good words, Gene. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, ground control to Major Tom.
Goodbye, Keith.
Take your
Have a good
protein
night,
pills
folks.
and put your helmet on.
Don't forget.
Wait a
like
minute, are you
us.
supposed to sell anything?
No, he's not selling anything tonight. We're not selling. We're chatting. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Adios.
Oh, I'm signing off.